Jayne Kennedy, the groundbreaking black woman who shattered television's color barrier as America's first major sports anchor, found herself weaponized and destroyed by the very industry that had celebrated her achievements. In 1981, at 30 years old, the trailblazer who had proven that talent transcends race and gender discovered the brutal truth about being first. Being first means being the most exposed when the machine decides to destroy what it created. The scandal would read, "Private video made public." But the real story was a culture that built symbols, then broke them when symbols became inconveniently human. The videotape that surfaced in 1981 had been recorded years earlier during her marriage to actor Leon Isaac Kennedy. A private moment between husband and wife that became a public weapon in a cultural war she never intended to fight. The intimate footage, leaked under circumstances that remain murky, transformed America's pioneering broadcaster into America's cautionary tale overnight. The same television screens that had celebrated her intelligence and professionalism now broadcast her destruction with the enthusiasm they had once shown for her success. The timing was devastating in its precision. Just as Jayne was reaching the peak of her influence as co-host of the NFL Today, the most-watched sports program in America, the scandal exploded across tabloid headlines and water-cooler conversations nationwide. Being first meant being the most exposed. The woman who had spent years proving that a black woman could excel in white male spaces suddenly found herself defined by the most intimate aspects of her private life. Her professional achievements rendered invisible by voyeuristic fascination. The tape was the weapon. The culture pulled the trigger. The same society that had reluctantly accepted her presence in prestigious television roles was eager for any excuse to remove her from platforms she had earned through talent and determination. Her downfall wasn't accidental. It was systematic, efficient, and designed to send a message to other women who might dare to follow in her footsteps. But this was not a story that began with leaked videotapes and tabloid exploitation. This was a story that began with a young black woman in the 1970s America, who understood that she would need to be twice as good to receive half the credit, and who developed the discipline and diplomatic skills necessary to survive in spaces designed to exclude her. The scandal would read, "Private video made public." But the real story was a culture that built symbols, then broke them when symbols became inconveniently human. In the working-class neighborhoods of Cleveland, Ohio, Jayne Harrison Kennedy entered the world on October 27, 1951. Born into a family where excellence was understood as the only path to respect in a society hostile to black ambition. Her father, Herbert, worked multiple jobs to support the family, while her mother, Virginia, emphasized that survival required being twice as good for half the credit. A lesson that would define Jayne's entire approach to professional life. Her childhood was marked by constant awareness of being different, not just because of her race, but because of her striking beauty and natural athletic ability. In integrated schools still adjusting to desegregation, Jayne learned to navigate spaces where she was often the only black face in the room, developing the poise and diplomatic skills that would later serve her well in television. But she also learned the exhausting burden of representation, understanding that her behavior would be seen as reflecting on all black women, not just herself. "I didn't want to be just a pretty face. I wanted to be a voice." Philosophy that emerged during her teenage years when she began to understand that her beauty could be either a tool or a trap, depending on how strategically she deployed it. The civil rights movement was reshaping American society, but the entertainment industry remained largely segregated, offering black women limited roles as singers, dancers, or exotic objects of desire. Jayne wanted something different, something that would allow her intelligence to shine alongside her physical attributes. Her breakthrough came through cheerleading for the Cleveland Browns, a role that served as her laboratory for media exposure and television presence. Being first meant being the most exposed, and the cheerleading position taught her how to project composure under pressure, maintain professionalism while being scrutinized by thousands of viewers, and control her ship while navigating storms of public attention that could destroy careers as easily as build them. The Browns organization recognized her potential beyond mere sideline entertainment, featuring her in promotional materials and television appearances that showcased her personality alongside her physical attributes. These early media experiences taught her valuable lessons about the power of television to create and destroy reputations, about the importance of controlling one's image, and about the particular vulnerabilities faced by Black women trying to succeed in predominantly white institutions. You can't control the storm, but you can control your ship, wisdom that guided her transition from cheerleader to television personality, as she learned to navigate an industry simultaneously fascinated by and hostile to her presence. The skills she developed during this period, thinking quickly under pressure, projecting warmth while maintaining professional boundaries, handling difficult questions with grace and intelligence, became the foundation for everything that followed. The early years of her television career were marked by the constant tension between merit and tokenism, as producers struggled to understand whether her appeal lay in her talents or her novelty as a beautiful Black woman in spaces traditionally reserved for white men. She understood that her success would always be questioned, that every achievement would be scrutinized for signs of favoritism or lowered standards, and that the slightest misstep could be used as evidence that the experiment of diversity had failed. Her marriage to Leon Isaac Kennedy in 1971 seemed like the perfect union of two talented Black performers breaking barriers in their respective fields. Leon was establishing himself as an actor and producer while Jayne was transitioning from cheerleading to serious television work. Together, they represented a new kind of Black celebrity couple, educated, ambitious, and determined to succeed on their own terms, rather than within the limited roles traditionally offered to Black entertainers. Sometimes your greatest achievements come from the doors that were slammed in your face, philosophy that sustained her through countless rejections and microaggressions that characterized her early television career. Network executives who praised her beauty questioned her credibility. Sports figures who respected her knowledge patronized her presence, and viewers who enjoyed her interviews wrote letters questioning whether she belonged in such prominent roles. Each obstacle became motivation to work harder, to be more prepared, to prove that her success was based on merit rather than tokenism. Her audition for the NFL Today in 1978 represented everything she had worked toward, a chance to prove that a Black woman could excel in the most masculine corner of television sports. The show's producers were looking for ways to broaden their audience appeal and demonstrate their commitment to diversity, but they were also taking an enormous risk in a climate where such hiring decisions were still controversial and potentially career-ending. Her debut on the NFL Today marked a watershed moment in American television history. The visual impact was undeniable. Every Sunday, millions of Americans saw their assumptions about race and gender challenged by Jayne's presence in that anchor chair, sitting between white male colleagues and discussing strategy and statistics with authority and charm. She didn't just change the face of the program, she changed the questions being asked. But the significance of her achievement extended beyond simple representation. Jayne brought a different perspective to sports journalism, asking questions that her male colleagues might not think to pose, connecting with interview subjects in ways that revealed new dimensions of their personalities, and demonstrating that diversity in broadcasting meant more than just diverse faces delivering the same content. Her interviewing style combined thorough preparation with genuine curiosity, creating conversations that unlocked athletes' humanity rather than just their statistics. The pressure of being first was immense and constant. Every mistake was magnified, every success scrutinized for signs of favoritism, every outfit analyzed for appropriateness, every word parsed for hidden meanings. She existed in a fishbowl where privacy was impossible and authentic self-expression was dangerous, understanding that being first meant being the most exposed to criticism, sabotage, and systematic destruction. Her relationship with colleagues ranged from genuinely supportive to subtly undermining, with most falling somewhere between. The informal networks that sustained television careers, after-work drinks, weekend golf games, casual conversations where real decisions were made, often excluded her either deliberately or through thoughtless oversight. The isolation was compounded by the fact that there were no precedents for her position, no other black women in similar roles who could offer advice or solidarity. The show's ratings success during her tenure proved that audiences were hungry for the fresh perspective she provided. The NFL today became appointment television for millions of viewers who might not have been interested in traditional sports programming, demonstrating the commercial value of diversity long before it became a corporate buzzword. Her success opened doors for other women and minorities in sports journalism, creating opportunities that continue to benefit performers today. But success also made her a target for those who felt threatened by the changes her presence represented. Anonymous letters questioned her qualifications. Sports figures made subtle references to her appearance rather than her professional abilities, and media critics parsed her performance for signs of inadequacy they would never have looked for in white male counterparts. The constant scrutiny was exhausting, but she understood that backing down would confirm critics' assumptions about her unsuitability for the role. The tape was the weapon, the culture pulled the trigger. The scandal that destroyed her career in 1981 didn't emerge from nowhere. It was the inevitable result of a system that had been looking for ways to remove her from the platform she had earned through merit and determination. The making of the private videotape that would later destroy her career occurred during a period when she and Leon were trying to maintain intimacy despite the pressures of public life. What was intended as a private expression of love between husband and wife became, through circumstances suggesting deliberate malice rather than accidental exposure, the instrument of her professional annihilation. The scandal broke with the force of a cultural earthquake, transforming overnight from whispered rumors to front-page headlines. The same television screens that had once celebrated her professional achievements now became vehicles for her public humiliation. The television that elevated her yesterday condemned her today. The ultimate demonstration of how quickly media could transform celebration into destruction when it served the culture's deeper purposes. She didn't fail. She was processed. The scandal revealed the double standards governing public discourse about male and female sexuality, particularly when race was involved. While Leon Isaac Kennedy faced relatively minor professional consequences, Jayne's career was essentially ended by the revelation. The same society that had celebrated her as a symbol of progress now used her downfall as evidence that black women were inherently unfit for positions of respect and responsibility. CBS Sports, which had once celebrated her as evidence of their progressive values, quietly began distancing itself from their former star. Her contract was allowed to expire without renewal, and the network offered no public support during the crisis. The same executives who had praised her professionalism when it served their purposes abandoned her the moment association became potentially damaging to their brand. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Speaking engagements were canceled, endorsement deals evaporated, and television producers who had once courted her participation suddenly became unreachable. The infrastructure of celebrity that had supported her rise, agents, publicists, managers, crumbled as industry professionals calculated that association with her had become more liability than asset. The tape was the weapon. The culture pulled the trigger. But perhaps more devastating than the professional consequences was the personal violation of having her most intimate moments subjected to public scrutiny. The psychological impact was profound, affecting not just her relationship with Leon but her ability to trust anyone with knowledge of her private life. The legal system offered little protection against exploitation of her image and reputation. Privacy laws in 1981 were inadequate to address new realities of video technology and mass media distribution, leaving her with few options for preventing further circulation or seeking meaningful compensation for damage to her career. She had become a victim of technological and cultural forces that the legal system was not equipped to address. Her retreat from public life was both strategic and necessary, as continuing to seek television work would have subjected her to constant questions about the scandal rather than her professional qualifications. The decision to step away from the career she had worked so hard to build was devastating, but it was the only way to protect what remained of her dignity. The woman who had once been one of the most recognizable faces on television became deliberately invisible. The second phase of her career focused on fitness and health programming that allowed her to capitalize on her athletic background while avoiding the political minefields of news and sports journalism. Her workout videos became popular during the 1980s fitness boom, but they represented a significant step down from the platform she had once occupied. This wasn't a failure of capability. It was a strategic landing after being stripped of her original foundation. The transition to fitness programming required her to reinvent herself professionally, while maintaining dignity in the face of obvious career diminishment. The woman who had once interviewed NFL superstars and discussed complex strategic concepts now found herself leading aerobics routines and demonstrating proper stretching techniques. The irony wasn't lost on industry observers who recognized the profound waste of talent that her exile from serious journalism represented. But Jayne approached this career transition with the same professionalism and preparation that had characterized her groundbreaking television work. She studied exercise physiology, consulted with fitness experts, and developed workout routines that were both effective and accessible to home audiences. The videos that resulted from this effort were genuinely helpful and well-produced, earning respect within the fitness industry, even if they couldn't restore her former cultural prominence. The fitness video market of the 1980s provided one of the few entertainment niches where her scandal actually enhanced rather than damaged her marketability. Audiences who purchased exercise videos were often drawn to instructors who seemed real and relatable rather than impossibly perfect. Her experience with public humiliation and personal struggle gave her an authenticity that resonated with viewers who were struggling with their own body image and self-confidence issues. The physical demands of creating fitness content also provided psychological benefits that helped her cope with the trauma of her career destruction. The discipline required for regular exercise, the endorphin release from intense physical activity, and the sense of accomplishment from mastering new fitness techniques all contributed to her mental health recovery during this difficult period. Her workout videos featured a diverse cast of participants that reflected her commitment to inclusion and representation, even in this reduced professional context. She insisted on including people of different ages, body types, and fitness levels, creating content that spoke to audiences who had been ignored by the predominantly white, thin young women who dominated most fitness programming. The commercial success of her fitness videos, while modest compared to her previous earning potential, provided financial stability during a period when her other income sources had been eliminated. The direct-to-consumer model of video sales also allowed her to maintain some control over her image and message, reducing her dependence on network executives and advertisers who had proven unreliable when controversy arose. Sometimes your greatest achievements come from the doors that were slammed in your face. Her marriage to Bill Overton in 1985 represented not just personal happiness but professional strategy, as she sought to rebuild her life with someone who understood the entertainment industry's pressures. Without having achieved the level of fame that would subject their relationship to the same scrutiny that had characterized her first marriage. Overton, an actor with steady but not spectacular career success, brought stability and normalcy to her life that had been missing during her years of celebrity. Their relationship was conducted largely outside the public eye, with both partners making conscious decisions to prioritize privacy over publicity. The lessons learned from her first marriage's very public dissolution influenced every aspect of how they structured their life together. The decision to start a family represented both personal fulfillment and strategic repositioning, as motherhood provided her with an identity and purpose that existed completely outside her professional achievements or failures. Her children became her primary focus, offering unconditional love and acceptance that helped heal the wounds inflicted by her professional exile. The suburban life she created with Overton was deliberately unremarkable, featuring the kind of routine domesticity that celebrities often claim to want but rarely achieve. Soccer practices, school events, parent-teacher conferences, and neighborhood barbecues provided a rhythm of life that was refreshingly disconnected from the entertainment industry's cycles of hype and destruction. But the transition to private life wasn't without its challenges. Someone who had spent years performing for millions of people had to learn how to find satisfaction in much smaller, more intimate audiences. The validation that had once come from fan mail and television ratings now had to be derived from her children's achievements and her community involvement. Her charitable work during this period focused on organizations that served young women and minorities, allowing her to use her experience and insights to help others navigate challenges similar to those she had faced. The mentoring relationships she developed with young broadcasters and athletes provided mutual healing, as she could see her own struggles reflected in their experiences while offering guidance that might help them avoid some of the pitfalls that had destroyed her career. The speaking engagements she occasionally accepted during this period were carefully chosen to focus on topics like resilience, reinvention, and overcoming adversity rather than her specific television work or the scandal that had ended it. These appearances allowed her to share her story on her own terms while maintaining control over the narrative in ways that had been impossible during the height of the media frenzy. She didn't fail. She was processed. The retrospective analyses of her career that began appearing in academic and media studies during the 1990s recognized her as a significant figure whose contributions had been overshadowed by circumstances beyond her control. Scholars studying the intersection of race, gender, and media began using her experience as a case study in how power structures protect themselves by destroying individuals who threaten established hierarchies. The emergence of the internet and social media in the 2000s created new opportunities for historical revision and recognition of previously marginalized figures. Online communities of sports journalism historians and civil rights advocates began celebrating her pioneering work and contextualizing the scandal within broader patterns of systemic discrimination and exploitation. Young journalists and broadcasters who discovered her story through internet research often expressed shock at learning about her groundbreaking career and the circumstances that had ended it. Many cited her experience as inspiration for their own work while acknowledging the ongoing challenges faced by women and minorities in media careers. The digital age also provided new platforms for her own voice, as she occasionally participated in podcasts and online interviews that allowed her to discuss her experiences with more nuance and context than had been possible during the height of the scandal. These conversations revealed someone who had achieved remarkable psychological healing while maintaining clear-eyed analysis of the forces that had shaped her career. Her perspective on the changes in media and celebrity culture that occurred during her lifetime provided valuable insights into how technology had transformed both the opportunities and vulnerabilities of public figures. The explosion of social media, reality television, and instant global communication had created a landscape that was both more democratic and more dangerous than the one she had navigated. The fitness and wellness industry's evolution also reflected broader changes in how Americans thought about health, body image, and personal empowerment. Her early work in exercise programming had helped establish markets and approaches that became standard practices in the industry, demonstrating how even career setbacks could contribute to meaningful cultural change. She didn't fail. She was processed. Her retreat from Hollywood was accompanied by increased involvement in charitable work and community organizations that allowed her to use her talents without subjecting herself to commercial pressures that had made her vulnerable to exploitation. The adjustment was difficult for someone who had once thrived on the energy and validation of live television performance. The long-term impact of her scandal extended far beyond her individual career to establish templates for the destruction of female celebrities through weaponization of their sexuality. The Jayne Kennedy affair became a blueprint that would be repeated countless times over subsequent decades with figures like Vanessa Williams, Pamela Anderson, and Kim Kardashian. But while later scandals sometimes resulted in career boosts or reality show opportunities, Jayne's experience occurred during an era when such exposure meant only destruction. The racial dynamics of her scandal established patterns that continue to influence how Black women in the public eye are treated when controversies arise. The same society that had reluctantly accepted her presence in prestigious television roles was quick to use her downfall as evidence that such positions should remain the province of white performers. The particular vulnerability of Black women to sexual exploitation and media destruction became a recurring theme in celebrity culture. Her story highlighted the gendered nature of scandal and redemption in American culture. While male celebrities routinely recover from sexual controversies and personal failings, women, particularly Black women, face different standards that make comeback much more difficult. The same behavior that might enhance a man's reputation becomes evidence of moral failure when exhibited by women. The tape was the weapon. The culture pulled the trigger. Today, when young women enter the entertainment industry, they receive warnings about protecting privacy and controlling image that trace directly back to lessons learned from Jayne Kennedy's experience. Her scandal became a cautionary tale that shaped how female celebrities approach relationships, technology, and media interaction. Her influence on sports journalism, though cut short, helped establish the presence of women and minorities in roles previously completely closed to them. The barriers she broke remained broken, even if she couldn't continue benefiting from her pioneering work. Young broadcasters who follow in her footsteps may not always know her name, but they benefit from precedents she established and doors she forced open through talent and determination. The fitness videos and exercise programs that sustained her second career represented different pioneering work, helping establish the market for celebrity fitness programming that became a major industry in subsequent decades. Her understanding of how to present complex physical training in accessible, entertaining formats influenced development of home fitness programming and contributed to democratization of exercise instruction. But perhaps her most significant legacy lies in conversations her experience sparked about privacy, consent, and exploitation of women in entertainment. The injustices she suffered became rallying points for later discussions about victim blaming, media responsibility, and the rights of public figures to maintain boundaries around private lives. Her experience helped establish frameworks for understanding how personal privacy intersects with public celebrity. The later phases of her life were marked by quiet dignity that stood in stark contrast to the sensationalism that had defined her public destruction. She raised her children, supported charitable causes, and maintained friendships within the entertainment industry while avoiding the spotlight that had once been central to her identity. The woman who had once been one of the most visible people in America became deliberately invisible, protecting herself and her family from forces that had consumed her. Her occasional public appearances in later years were marked by grace and composure, suggesting someone who had made peace with both achievements and losses. When interviewed about her groundbreaking television career, she spoke with pride about barriers broken and opportunities created for others, while maintaining dignified silence about the scandal that had ended her time in the spotlight. "I became a household name, but I lost myself in the process." Words that captured the essential tragedy of her experience, the way public success had required sacrifices of privacy and authenticity that ultimately proved unsustainable. Her story became a cautionary tale not just about dangers of fame, but about particular vulnerabilities faced by women who dare to be first in spaces never designed to accommodate them. She didn't fail. She was processed. The retrospective assessments of her career that began appearing in the 2000s recognized her as a true pioneer whose contributions to sports journalism had been overshadowed by sensational circumstances beyond her control. Academic studies of media representation began acknowledging her role in opening spaces previously closed to women and minorities. The scandal would read "private video made public." But the real story was a culture that built symbols, then broke them when symbols became inconveniently human. The videotape was just the weapon. The real destroyer was a society that had never truly accepted her presence in the first place, and was eager for any excuse to remove her from the platform she had earned through talent and determination. Today, when we see women of color succeeding in sports journalism and television hosting, we witness the fulfillment of possibilities that Jayne Kennedy first demonstrated. But we also see ongoing challenges faced by women who dare to be visible, vulnerable, and successful in a culture that continues to punish female sexuality while commodifying it. Her experience remains relevant not as ancient history, but as continuing reminder of how quickly achievement can be transformed into scandal when privacy becomes weaponized. The tape was the weapon. The culture pulled the trigger. The door stayed open even when she was forced to walk away. Remember the pioneer and the price, not just the scandal that ended her visibility. The videotape only put the period at the end. The story had been written in dance studios and television studios, in breakthrough moments and quiet struggles, in the accumulated courage required to be first in spaces that had never welcomed someone who looked like her. She didn't fail. She was processed by a machine designed to build symbols and break them when they became inconveniently human. But you decide, if this scandal erupted in the social media age, would Jayne have been canceled or protected? Why do men typically return after sexual scandals while women, especially black women, do not? Can we design fair redemption paths for victims whose privacy has been weaponized against them? The problem wasn't the tape, it was a culture that wanted to see her fall. The tape ended a career. The door stayed open. She didn't collapse from weakness. She was thrown into the grinding machine. Her legacy lives not in the scandal that destroyed her visibility, but in the spaces that remain accessible because she had the courage to enter them first.